Hello, hello. Let me bring up my co-host here. Hi, Healy. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
I can hear
Oh,
you.
there you
How
go.
are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. I think I made it just in the nick of time.
Yeah, you sure did. I was like, oh my God. You had me sweating there, just like you're sweating. Uh-oh, where'd you go? Did I do that? Oh, you hit a button. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another day, another edition of Gardening Plus with myself, Joy, and in a minute here, my co host at HealyMeans. While she situates herself, I will begin. Welcome to Gardening Plus with Joy and Healy. We are two coast to coast gardeners sharing our beyond the basics experience, intermediate knowledge, and advanced antics. Watch the Chiron at the bottom of the screen, which I will load now. For important information, feel free to exchange ideas, tips, tricks with each other in the chat. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now let me also do mine at the bottom there. There we go. Now today's going to be a little bit of a technical show. This is going to be a lot of pictures or videos popping at you, so I'm going to be very distracted almost. Plus, I wrenched my back, so I'm going to might be fidgeting a bit in my chair as well. And if you'd like to come up on chat and share your life experiences, you can do so by clicking on the, well, I guess I should put that in the comments box. Let me see. Can I do that? Yes, I can. So in the comments area is the link to come up. Here's my co-host. She's back. Yay.
Hi.
Yes, you're back. Hi.
I know. I don't know what happened. It's probably just because I'm scrambling trying to get in here, but I'm back.
Understandable.
Hopefully to stay this time.
Yes, that's all that matters. All right, I did the greeting in case you missed it. And are you ready to
Okay.
introduce yourself? Or should I?
I am scrambling, still trying to get
All right, I'll do myself.
my stuff together. Yeah,
I'll,
thank
I'll
you.
do me. Okay. I am in New York State, hardness zone 6B. Last frost date, typically mid May. I'm going to start putting that in now. I utilize all manners of gardening styles, in ground, raised beds, containers. I mostly at this time of the year do indoor growing or indoor starting anyway. No, I do grow indoors too. And hopefully to add a greenhouse to that long list. I also have a flock of 15 chickens, and the current temperature is actually normal, normal winter as far as I'm concerned. The Arctic blast, I hope, has blasted itself off into the
Hmm.
nethers and will not return. We are entering back into normalcy with, above freezing temperatures in the day. Still freezing at night, but that's what it's supposed to be doing. And maybe we can get some of the snow to melt and reveal some of that fertile soil under there. All right, that's me. How about you,
Okay.
Healy?
Well, again, I'm Healy and I'm in Southern California. I am in zones 10B/11A, and I always put the slash in there because our old zone before the 2023 change was 10B. Now it's 11A. I definitely go with that. It has been in the 80s here in Southern California. Right now, it's a bit overcast. I think it's in the high 60s.
Mm.
Um, our winters are very mild. This winter is ridiculously warm though. Like our summers, which are very warm, kind of dry. It only rains about 3 months out of the year and not like every day. So rain is sparse. Water is definitely something that we are very aware and conscious of. But all of that makes for year-round gardening. I've been gardening at my current location for about 9 years, and I have a small backyard. I do mostly above ground gardening, so buckets, nursery pots, vertical planters, DIY and manufactured raised beds, and sometimes grow bags. I just recently set up a two grow bag yellow pallet station in my yard, and I'm hoping to grow, I'm thinking potatoes in one bag, and I'm not sure in the other. But besides 3 fruit trees that I do have in ground, everything else is above ground in my backyard shenanigans garden.
Awesome. Yeah, speaking of the weather, all around the states has just been on the extremes on both ends. Here we had
Hmm.
record breaking cold, and then out west you were getting record breaking heat and lack of rain or
Yes.
snow, a lot of lack of snow really. And like even all the way to
Hmm.
Florida, they've had their more than normal freezes down there, which for people who are vacationing there, they were super upset that they haven't
Yeah,
escaped
I
anything.
know, right? Yeah, they
Oh,
should have came out here.
right. But hopefully, at least, well, for me anyway, I'm hoping this super cold spell will mean less pests in this summer. But we shall see. We shall see.
See, and that's something that I think may be a concern for my area,
Hmm.
because it was not just warm, but like literally hot. I'm talking about mid to upper 80s. Um, our winter was non-existent this year, and I am I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm gonna whisper it. I think we'll have a lot of pest pressure this year. So I'm not looking forward to that, but we'll see. Right now I don't have anything planted out in my garden. I haven't even started sowing seeds yet. But I don't know. Now I'm almost afraid to, because I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared.
At least you got your trees to get you by. You got
That's yeah,
to keep you
that's true.
busy. But we'll get back to that. All right. We are, let's see. Well, I guess we're at the segment where we talk about what we've accomplished since the last live, which we try to do every other week, every 2 weeks, right? Every other week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a little bit different this month, actually. Let me say it now and then I'll say it again at the end. We are going to do back-to-back lives now, and then
Hmm.
again next week, same time, same place, because of the way the month is working out for us. And
Yeah.
I think going forward, we're going to go back to the every other week situation. But I think the time for now, we're going to keep. So just a heads up, and I'll
Mhm.
try to repeat that at the end again for any late viewers. All right. As for what I was up to this week, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't throw it out. I went to a school dance with one of my children. They have the little school dance. It's so cute.
Ah.
But they don't dance. Kids, they run around and jump and stuff, but they don't really dance. And this is
Mhm.
my 7-year-old, so definitely not the dancing type, but she likes to jump. And so she wanted me to hold on to her. She would jump, and then I would kind of like levitate her for, a half a second before she goes back down. And so I was
Mhm.
doing that, and I forgot that I'm old. And so my back now is like, oh, what have you done to me? so, so my back hurts. So that sucks for me. But before that, happier memories.
Yeah.
Jess, if anybody knows, from Roots and Refuge, she's down in North Carolina, and also Morgan
Mhm.
Gold. He's up in Vermont. Goldshaw Farm is his channel. But they did a collab, and they played, well, it's not a play, it's a TED talk, I guess they call it, where they talk about
Mhm.
life and stuff up in Boston, which is it's 3 hours from me. So they were advertising this last year, so I got the tickets. It was for January 31st, which was perfect. So we went, my husband and I went up. We made sure we stayed over because it's a trek to drive down, and the weather being unknown, who knows if we would have even been able to go, but yeah,
Mhm.
we got to the show, and it was beautiful. There was a nice theater, the Huntington Theater. um Jess and Morgan were lovely. There was a Q&A, which I got to ask one of my questions, which I had a million more questions, but you gotta let the other people ask their questions. Blah. And then at the end, they came out, talked to more people, and I was able to talk to Jess again. And she remembered me because I had met her 2 years ago at the New England Homesteaders of America conference. So I'd met her there, and then she remembered
Oh,
me
wow.
this time around. So, we said hello, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I
Mhm.
I actually had a video, but I forgot to put it up, so I'll put the video on
Well, what
another
was the
time.
question? We want to know.
Oh, well, it was very specific to her because she has many businesses, that she does,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is a roastery. But attached to the roastery was another building she wanted to make into like not a hardware store, but like an everyday and everything, like a feed store, a sourdough,
Yeah.
all those things. General store,
Mm-hmm.
duh, general store. So
Mm-hmm.
she was trying to get that up and running, but she hit some snags, health issues to town. And so I was like, what happened to this, the idea? And she's like, oh, they're still going to move forward with it. Just the timing, had to be what it is.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, awesome. So yeah, so that was the question. All right. What else was there? My last video I updated on the hashtag WIG 2025
Mm-hmm.
challenge with my plants there. Also, I said mealy bugs in the video, but I think
You
it's
did.
actually
Yeah.
white flies that I'm dealing with
Mm-hmm.
because I don't really know what they look like. I don't deal with
Yeah.
these pests very often. So I think it's actually white flies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have been spraying with the neem solution and Castile soap. And it
Is
looks,
it working?
yeah, it looks like it's
Mm-hmm.
slowly going down. And my flower seeds are up that I sowed about 2 weeks ago. And then this week, they'll be alive eventually of me sowing the next round of seeds, which we'll get to at the end of the show. So stick around. All right. Your turn.
So what have I been doing since the last live stream? I have been going still tree crazy,
Mhm.
but specifically scion crazy. So I got some Spice Z Nectar Plum scions, and if you watch my channel, subscribe, I have a Spice Z Nectar Plum. It is in a container, but it's still a very young tree. And so I didn't want to do too much pruning or whatever off of that. And I was glad to get some of these scions because I'm thinking about grafting them to my August Pride peach tree, which is also in a container. This past Saturday, I actually went to a scion exchange and I cut up some of my if I can, I don't know if I can present this, the cherry tree,
Oh,
the
all right.
mini royal cherry tree. Yeah, just so people can see
Let me on this
what it
side.
looks like. And this tree is in the ground, very established since 2018. So I pruned branches, and that's what scions are. They're just branches with buds on them. So I pruned off some of the branches from this mini royal
Oh,
cherry tree,
let me get back to
and then I was able to take that to the scion exchange, and I traded my scions for the picture that Joy brought up. Y'all, I got
Okay.
so much stuff. I put up a post on my community post or post, whatever they calling it now, the posting part of my YouTube channel, so you can see, y'all. I got
Nice.
avocado, grape, peach, apricot. I got a bunch of dragon fruit, and I got several apple scions. If you remember from last year, I tried to graft 4 varieties of apple scions onto my Fuji apple, which is also in the ground. And y'all, I went 0 for 8. 0 for 8. So I'm hoping this time, to do better. As you can see, I have a lot to work with. And then the last thing that I got is, that's the last picture, Joy. It is some grape cuttings. So I got 3 different varieties of grapes. I can't, I think Atoka, Kiuka, and Everest. So I have 2 cuttings of each, and you see them there. I just have them in 1-gallon pots with some soil, some fertilizer mix, whatever. I went back just yesterday and I took some grocery bags, like some plastic grocery bags, because I didn't have anything big enough to fit over the whole thing. Some of these
Mhm.
cuttings are pretty tall. So I took grocery bags and just fit them around the base of the pot to try to warm up the soil, because you're supposed to try to create a humid area, but I have to get some bags. I don't have anything large enough to put over the whole thing to kind of like create that humidity environment. So I'm gonna look around for some larger bags. But
Mhm.
these are 3 varieties of grapes that I'm hoping that will root and take, and then I need to find somewhere to put them. I
Mhm.
do currently have 2 grape plants, my old grape plants. I didn't take a picture of those, but I think I put a post on my YouTube channel. So I have a Thompson seedless and I have a Mars grape. Those are established in 15-gallon pots. I cut them like all the way back and they are growing profusely. So I
Nice.
have to work on that. I still have the 4 varieties of the Tomato Mania tomato seedlings. They're still alive in the little 3-inch cups. So I've been watching those. Those are going. I have 2 super beefsteak tomato plants in Aunt Jerry's raised bed that just have carried over from last year, and I was supposed to pull them up. I was supposed to take them down. But if you know me, if it has like one chlorophyll cell of green, it's hard for me to pull it up. And I didn't pull it up, and now they are just growing all over everywhere. Plus, it's up against the wall of my house. So I think that the heat that's generated from the side of the house also helps to proliferate those plants. Because I'm looking at it right now. It's a sunflower. I'm certain of it. It's about probably about 5 feet tall, and it's just kind of like growing up the side of the house. Now, I got to caveat that because the raised bed is 17 inches, and then I have 2 garden blocks under that, which is a foot. So it's already, 2 feet up, 2.5 feet up, and then the plant starts, and then the plant is about 5 feet now. So
Mhm.
it's very tall up off the ground. So I'm doing that. Liquid fertilize all of the trees, the dragon fruit, everything that I already have growing, but have not sowed one seed, y'all. So over the next 2 weeks, I'm hoping to start some seeds. I'm hoping to still go through my 5-gallon buckets and refresh the soil. Y'all, I look at them every day. I want to do it, but it's a daunting task. And I've been doing like everything else except that. So I'm hoping to get to that, build up the trellis for my grape plants, and then also work with the grape cuttings because I have more grape cuttings, including the tom cord, which for my area is very beneficial because it is more resistant to some of the pests and diseases that grapes get. So the tom cord is just what it sounds like. It's a cross of the Thompson seedless and a Concord grape. So I'm real interested about that. I have some other varieties, but the Tom Cord is one that I'm really interested in. And just general maintenance, but really like to try to just get my garden started. I
Mhm.
had initially planned not to sow any seeds or anything until February 15th, like anyway.
Okay.
So I have 5 days to do all of that work I just said so I can be
Great.
on time. We'll see. We'll
Good
see.
luck.
I know, right?
All right. That's great. Oh, I was thinking about you're saying grocery bags. If you're time crunch and you don't have time to do it yet, if you have any garment bags, the clear ones from the dry cleaners,
Yeah.
they're bigger. Also, if
Mhm.
you have any extra clear shower curtains, you could make a makeshift, bags with those.
You
Just
know
some
what?
thoughts.
I don't have either of those things. But I have, you know what? I have garbage bags that they're white. And it's
Yeah,
not
they're white.
clear. It's
Right.
white
They're
garbage
not clear.
bags. I'm thinking like the 13-gallon
Hmm.
size, so not like big 33, but 13
Right.
gallon size. I'm thinking maybe that, but they're scented though. You think the
Oh,
scent
I hate
will
those.
that make a difference? Probably. Maybe it'll keep
No.
the bugs and stuff
Oh,
away
yeah, there you go.
because that's why it's scented anyway. It's supposed to
Mhm.
like
Right.
when you put your trash out, the
Yeah.
scent is supposed to like keep away the raccoons or the whatever, the cats and the dogs that might dig in your trash can. So you know what? I might do that because I have many of those trash bags until I can get something, more fitting. So
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that idea. I need to do that as soon as the live stream is over too, so I don't forget.
Well, now you're making me think maybe I should get more of those scented bags to put around the yard. Just, instead of the Irish Spring soap, just put garbage
Oh
bags
yeah.
everywhere.
Maybe. Well, I mean, but you know what? But is the soap working though?
I don't know. I haven't done it, so.
No.
All right, let's get on to the next part of the show, which is the word. So so first it was like word of the day, and now it's word of reflection because I'm getting philosophical
Yeah.
as my gardening age progresses. But I will have two things for today: a word of reflection and a word of the day. So let's start with the word of
Okay.
reflection. Here we go. Today's word is awakening. Now I came up with this
Yes.
myself. Thank you very much. In nature, it is the act of ceasing to sleep. Once the thaw of spring arrives, the plants will resume or renew their life cycle. For us gardeners, it is not just waking up to the same old day, it is an awareness that we are the guide to new life of plants. So that
You need
is
to trademark that. I
awakening.
like it.
I was like, I gave it to my husband. It's like, edit this. It's like,
Trademark.
no,
You
it's
heard it here first.
perfect. So it's like, it's hard to pinpoint a word, specifically
Hmm.
garden related because there's a bajillion of it. But I do have one and it
Yeah.
will recur in the topic of today. That's why I ended up picking it. So here is the word of the day.
Hmm.
Epinasty in plants refers to the
Hmm.
downward bending of plant parts, meaning like drooping. Excuse me, there's a
Hmm.
truck very noisy outside. All right. Bending of plant parts due to fast growth on the upper surface compared to the lower. And this movement is triggered by root flooding and consequently oxygen deprivation. So we will see where that fits into the topic further later on. That'd be
Hmm.
nasty.
I'm interested to see that. I want now. I want to know.
All right, we are gonna do before the main topic what to direct cell transplant and harvest this month, and you, Healy, are gonna start it off because you actually have stuff to do,
Okay.
whereas
I
me
know.
not so
Yeah. I
much.
will. I'll start it off. So, and we thought of this maybe a few weeks ago, just to give people ideas of what we're doing in our area. Now, of course, depending on where you live, your climate, your zone, your the type of garden you have and what you're doing, um, your plant varieties and choices may vary. The things that we mentioned are just a few, so by no means is the list exhaustive. There's always other things and all of those disclaimers, right? So this is just a few things. So for my area, um zone 10/11, I mentioned earlier that we do have like literally a year round growing year. The seasons almost like blend together. So it's always a lot of things to grow. But we broke it down to like direct sow. So taking your seed and going straight into the place that you want the plant to grow, like its permanent home. So when we say direct sow, that's what we mean. So if you garden in raised beds, then you would direct sow the plant into that, I mean the seed into that bed. If it's a bucket, if it's ground, wherever the permanent home is, that's where you would sow the seed. So that's what we mean when we say direct sow. When we say starting, um, so you start in seed trays, seed cups, solo cups, yogurt cups.
Mhm.
It's a place where you put the seed to start the germination, but it's not the plant's permanent home. So it's just a starting place. And then transplant will be when you take the seedling from that initial growing germination place and then put it into either a larger container, a different place, or its permanent home. But normally, if transplant normally is, from that beginning seedling place to the permanent home. If you're going to put it in a larger container or something, people normally say up pot. You'll hear people say, oh, I'll up pot to so and so. It means that they're just going from, a smaller container to a larger container, but not necessarily into the permanent home. And then, of course, harvest, the seed has gone through the entire life cycle process. You are harvesting because we getting ready to eat. You eating, or you storing, or you preserving. So that's what we mean when we say harvest. So going back to those categories for direct sow in my area, so Southern California, zones 10, 11, um, and this could be other zone 10s, like Southern Texas has a zone 10, Southern Florida has a zone 10, but they're not all the same. So very generally speaking, that's a lot of disclaimers, but I'm not going to say this every time. So just come back to this one where I have the whole explanation. So for direct sow, I have arugula, asparagus, beans, including fava beans, corn, root crops, leafy greens, peas, and potatoes. Also, if you have cool weather flower seeds, you can direct sow those cosmos, marigold, other flowers like that. And then also herbs such as lemon balm, oregano, parsley, and savory. And again, there are many, many others. This is just a few examples. For starting seeds, so seed tray, cup, yogurt cup, plastic bottle, whatever. For those, I have basil, so an herb, the brassicas, cucumbers, eggplant, leafy greens, leeks, lettuce, melon. Melon is a good one because they take such a long time. A lot of people start long growing plants early, so in February. Also, okra, peppers, summer and winter squash, and tomatoes. For a transplant, so if this is already growing in your garden, a good time to transplant this month in my area: arugula, brassicas, chives, kohlrabi. And I think I'm gonna grow kohlrabi this year. I keep saying it, but I haven't done it. I think I'm gonna do it. I think, but I don't know. I might already be too late. Probably not, but we'll see. Also to transplant leafy greens, leek lettuces, if you've already started those, and root crops. Now, normally root crops don't like to be transplanted, but if you sow them and as soon as you see germination, transplant them into their permanent home, they'll be okay. But the longer you leave them in the seed tray, the seed cup, the starter thing before you pick them up and transplant it, it's not so good because they don't like the roots to be disturbed because these are literally root crops. So you just want to be careful with that. And then also onions. A lot of people have onion starts, and then it'll be about time now, like I said, in my area to transplant those into their permanent homes. And then to harvest, if you've already been growing all of this stuff, which in my area, that's definitely possible, and especially with the warm winter that we had. So arugula, beets, leek, parsnip, so a lot of root vegetables, chard, chives, fennel, kale, and lettuce, some leafy greens, also onion, spinach, and sorrel. I have a note here, also during February, during this time, check your soil health and amend as needed, whether you've already started planting or you're getting ready to start planting. Check your soil health, prune, feed, and mulch your roses if you're growing roses, and then prune your fruit trees and spray for pests and diseases. And then also, like I'm hopefully getting ready to do, graft your fruit trees. You want to try to catch them right before they start waking up. So that's what I have for my area.
That was a lot. Oh my gosh. Don't.
And there's more, but we're going to leave it.
You overwhelm me. All right. I will share my few meager plants. No, there's plenty of shows I can do, but we'll do that at the end of this segment here. So now we are going to get to the main topic, which is titled Get Set for Success in the Garden.
Mm.
All right. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there's a lot of like visuals that's going to be happening. So I'm going to be a little bit scattered. Hopefully won't be too distracting. All right. So the first thing, and really the main thing, if you take anything from this whole spiel, it's this number one is research. Research.
Mm-hmm.
Take whatever seed, whatever plant, whatever bush, whatever tree, whatever berry, and read up on it. And not just, one thing, the first place, maybe the place you bought it from, not just their information, but a whole bunch of different places, especially if it's a foreign plant to you or your general area. Definitely, see what the best growing conditions for that might be and such. Read your seed packets. Those also have good information. And then visit reputable sources. I'm trying to share something here. All right, let me share this one. As far as sharing, like, let's say asparagus. Asparagus is something I should be starting now if I was starting it, but I already have it set, so I'm good. So this in particular is Johnny's. None of these are sponsored. This is just, common information out there. I find Johnny's to have a really good growing guide for most things, so I go to them a lot. And so asparagus, let's say you got, what would normally appear in the seed packet up here. And then further down, you have growing information, which I already had open. So they have a whole bunch of, it says here, may not perform well in warmer areas such as Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, Florida. So you would then, if you lived in those areas, that would not be the variety for you. And then it's got other growing, planting, harvesting. It's a lot of good information. But, the more plants you get into, the more of this kind of stuff you're going to have to start doing if you want to be successful. Now, let me see if I can share the next screen. Nope, I would have to do it again. So let me take this off, which is how do you do that? Okay, stop screen and then share screen again. When you're not paying for something, it's it's a little bit difficult to maneuver. All right. I've been hearing a lot about this. I guess it's a company, a group. It's AAS, sorry, American. Oh, great. I don't even remember what it's where does it say what it is? AAS, about AAS. All American Selection, which is a group of a bunch of farmers from all over the world who pretty much, grow whatever product they have, and then they like enter them like a contest of them they're making, and then they see who's the winner for that region, which I love because like, what do we got here? Southeast, let's say. And so the winner pretty much across the board for basil is this Treviso. Let me see, Northeast, which is where I'm at also. So if you were really interested in, the best basil that you could grow that would do well for you, this is a good, like, all right, this has one. They felt that this grew well, that it had a good flavor, that it had pest resistance. So this would be the basil that you might want to try. And you will, once you scroll through, you'll see a lot of them are hybrids, which there's nothing wrong with hybrids. Don't be scared of hybrids. But I found that this was an interesting, like a few of the YouTubers are part of like a research team where these companies send them seeds, they grow it out in their yards to see how it does for them, and then they submit their findings to them back to places like AAS, and that's how we get this information, which I think is super helpful. All right, let me get that out of there.
Hey, GT Junior, how you doing?
Hey,
Welcome.
GT. If you want to come up and say hi, there's a link there in the chat. All right, where was I? All right, and then sowing methods. Next is sowing methods. Where is my video for that? It's around here somewhere. Visuals, this one. Add to stage. All right. What are you going? Stop. You go too fast. What are you going to pick? You got to decide. Now, for some of us like Healy, she's outside all day, every day. But for those of us in the cold places, indoor growing is our number
Mm-hmm.
one stop for starting our seeds early, as well as window growing.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I stopped it. Hydroponics has become super popular now, and it comes in range of price points to the little tabletop, things to the huge towers. Next,
Mm-hmm.
in my dream is this greenhouse. I really want.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah, yeah.
really want that.
That's both of our dreams right there. I'll take that.
As well as for the cheaper people, me, it would be a cold frame. And then we got winter sewing, which is something I also have to
Mhm.
get into, which I like this
I
method.
know GT can tell us a lot about that, being in Alaska.
Soil blocking also, typically it was a method being used by the large growers, but it's making its way into the home use, so that is an option. Direct
Mm-hmm.
sowing, which is what Healy touched on before, where you just find the permanent place for your plant, and that's where the seed starts and ends. There's square foot gardening. Once you've figured out, maybe you don't have that much space, but you want the most harvest, this could be
Mm-hmm.
one of the methods you use. And then this is row gardening, which is if you have a lot of space, and then this
Mm-hmm.
is the method you would use. And finally, we have seed broadcasting, or some people might call it guerrilla gardening, where you just take your seeds and you just throw them up in the air, and wherever they fall is where they grow. No mucking about in the soil or anything. So this is a wilder one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everybody. All right, let me take that down. Now, we touched on it in the previous slide. Let me just say hi to people. Hi, Shane. Hi, G Mama. Nice to see you all. All right. In the previous slide, we saw the bottles and the cups in the snow. So that
Mm-hmm.
is partially cold stratification, and that let me just read what I wrote here. It's a process that mimics natural winter conditions that breaks seed dormancy and promote germination. So a lot of your perennials, a lot of your wildflowers, trees from climates
Mm-hmm.
like that experience a winter shift, they need this cold stratification in order to not just grow, but to produce fruit. And then there are other ways to break seed dormancy. There is that screen is not big enough. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I can change my screen so that, nope, that changes it badly.
You know what? While you're doing that too, and I just want to make a note of that. So I
Mhm.
was trying to grow snapdragon flowers last year. And I sowed the seeds in the spring, and I was so happy. Oh, yes, my snapdragons, these flowers will grow beautifully. And the spring was very, very warm. And guess what? I think if I sowed 20 seeds, maybe two of them came up. Well, had I read the seed packet and had I researched and known more about the flower in the seed, snapdragons need a period of cold.
Mhm.
They need that cold stratification before they will, break dormancy and grow. So I know from now on. So it's not even just, plants and, food things that we're growing. Check your flower seeds too, because some of them need cold stratification. And so now I know.
Thank you very much. All right. So some of the other methods to break seed dormancy are, so this is the paper towel method, where you take your seeds, you get a damp paper towel, you press it between, and usually people stick it into like a Ziploc baggie or something, and then
Hmm.
you could put it in the refrigerator. And then another way, which I'd heard in the past but never paid attention to, but more recently it's come up, is to completely freeze them in ice cubes, which I thought was so cool. And
Hmm.
basically, you just like break the ice cubes, you take a cube and you dump it in the space where you're gonna want it to grow out of, and there you go. You had your winter
Wow.
for that seed. I thought that was clever. All right, so those are the methods for cold stratification. Oh, sorry. And then breaking seed dormancy, other things to consider is soaking your seeds in warm water for a period of like 24 hours or 12 to 24 hours. Also, scratching or scarifying, that will help weaken the seed and allow moisture to get in more easily. All right, the next topic is temperature. The most home temperatures between 60 to 75 degrees is ideal for sprouting seeds, but some seeds require higher temperatures. Those are usually your warm weather crops. And then there are those that require colder temperatures, which is the seeds we were talking about earlier that need either, like if you have a basement where it stays around 50 degrees, that's ideal for those. And then there are those that need to be completely outside where it gets in the 40s or less. So temperature is important. I had, let me see, is it this one? It's really hard to read, but there's Territorial Seed Companies out of Oregon. So this winter gardening chart has a temperature line item that tells you ideal temperature for that particular plant. So if you were growing it, whether indoor or outdoor, and this is soil temperature, not air temperature. All right, the next item is, will your seed germinate in the dark or does it need light to germinate? Now, not all seeds are created equal, just as they're not the same shape and size. They also have their special light requirements. So when you're direct sowing, for the most part, the depth at which you put your seed will determine, you know, if it's a tiny seed, it just stays on the surface. If it's a larger seed, you bury it, and that gives you the darkness. But for those of us that start indoors, we have to be mindful that not all seeds are going to need to be buried. A lot of seeds need the light. This guide, if I can pull it up.
Now, G Mama, just going back to something you said right quick, G Mama said that she's tried hydrogen peroxide, and that's also another way to soften the seeds to help them to break dormancy to grow. And she says mostly hard shells like watermelon, but she used hydrogen peroxide for a majority of seeds.
Okay. Where is my light paper? All right, I can't figure out where the light one went, but hold on. Let me talk about the lights first, and then I'll look for that chart that I was trying to pull up. So you have your basic and cheapest and easiest, the fluorescent lights, which we can get anywhere. Well, you can get most of these anywhere. So fluorescent lights. We're not going to get technical. The lights is very scientific. There's a lot of information out there on it. So if you really want to geek out on lights, you can just Google and read to your heart's content all the particular micromoles and PAR readings and stuff like that. But for our purposes, in this picture here, fluorescent lights, you will need to put closer to your plants because it's not putting out as much light energy as, let's say, an LED, the newer ones anyway, are. So those would have to be a little bit higher. But also, don't forget that fluorescent bulbs might emit more heat than the LED lights. So you do want to be mindful of that as well. So closer, but not too close that you might burn your little seedlings. Okay. All right. I had a lot more on lights, but I feel like it's going to be too overwhelming. So we're going to skip. I have the links in the description after the show. You want to check them out. A lot of what we're talking about here today is in the links for you to peruse later. I was saying I'm not finished. So LEDs were more expensive, but they have come down in price and are more accessible now. And they come in a variety of different fashions. Like for some reason I have this. This is one of those with the bendy neck. It's got the red and blue light. So from what I from what I remember, like blue is for just the leaves and red is for the fruit. Do you know anything about that, Healy? Do you remember anything
I
about the lights?
don't.
Oh.
You know what? And that is something I actually had to research on, but you have caught me off guard, and
It's
I
all right.
am
It's all
not.
right.
I can't. I can't think at the moment. But the different spectrum, the different colors in the spectrum of the light, they do target different areas of the plant. Like you say, some light is for the leaves, some is for the stems, and some is either gathered through the top part of the plant to go down to benefit the roots. So that is true. I just can't recall right now which color for which part of the plant.
hmm Okay, here's one of the slides I was looking for. So this is from Iowa State, and just a bunch of seed lists on which require light and which require like a quarter-inch depth. So there's a little bit of light, and then which ones like really want darkness. So let's say
Hmm.
Cosmos, darkness for germination. Lysianthus, light for germination. Um, those were the flowers. These are the veg and herbs list. Some more. Yeah, I like this list. And it's not exhaustive, but it's a good stepping off point,
Yeah.
which is helpful. Um Going back, you need light, otherwise you're going to have leggy plants. Let's just leave it at that. All
Hmm.
right. As far next is sanitizing your growing kits. If you just bought your kit, great, go. But if it's something you've used prior, you might want to, I say might, because I, for one, do not do this, but you might want to, sanitize bleachy soap or something, scrub it out. I know Healy does this. I do not.
And guess what, y'all? And I showed y'all, if you watch my channel, I showed y'all, you remember the 5-gallon bucket that I had the bleach, and I think bleach, like Castile soap and water, y'all, that bucket is still sitting there with those seed trays.
They're
I'm gonna
super
do it, y'all. I
sanitized.
promise. Yeah, but I do now. Some people use bleach. Some people will use peroxide. Some people will use different, different um chemicals or different, products or whatever. But the whole point, like Joy is saying, is just sanitize, because sometimes one grain of soil, left over from the previous season, left in your starter kits or your starter trays, can spread disease to, your next year or your next season crops. It only takes a small amount. So you really want to, don't just dunk them and, oh, put them in and take them out. No, get you a scrub brush, like really, like scrub and get in there, because you'll be wondering, you'll do everything like Joy said. You have the light, you have, the soil, you have current year seeds, everything is right, and you're wondering why aren't my seeds germinating? Like, what's going on? I did the cold stratification, I did the scarification, I did everything. What is going on? It could be dirty seed starting kit.
Yep.
So please sanitize. And G Mama says she used hydrogen peroxide. I know some
Yep.
people
Yep.
do that because some people don't like bleach. Bleach might be too strong, or depending on what your seed starter kit is made of, because not all plastic is the same. Not all materials are the same. So bleach might be a little bit too strong. Like, I might pull those seed starter trays out and they're green, and above the water might be dark green, and below the water might be white. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. I do like to dry them out in the sun. I feel like the sun has,
Mm,
some properties that help
yeah.
sanitize a bit. And then I guess this is a good reason to buy not the flimsy trays, because you can't be
Mm,
scrubbing those little flimsy things. They'll just fall apart on you. There's
yeah.
that. Now, another important thing to remember is the moisture level, and a, a main, a usually misunderstood or forgotten about part is humidity. Like, we all think just about the soil being wet, but we don't think about the air also. So it's important to be mindful of water in and around seedlings. Soil should be consistently damp throughout the life of the seedling. Too much moisture can lead to epinasty. Do we remember that was the word of the day? Epinasty.
Yes.
Or root rot, which is the roots part, whereas epinasty is the upper part of the plant. So this is where the roots are starved of oxygen, leading to their death. Also, there's damping off, which is a fungal disease where the stem and leaves start to rot. And there's no going back from this. Less problematic with too much moisture is algae. A lot of people freak out about that. That's okay. Just lay off the watering. Now, lack of water, letting the seed or seedling dry out. If you catch it in time, the plant might survive. So don't let that happen either. Now, as for humidity, while germinating seed may require 100%, that's where we do the seed domes. Oh, the domes, which I like. I like the domes. Once the seeds have sprouted, or a few days, some seeds don't all sprout at the same time. Some take a day or two. So if the majority of your seeds have sprouted, start taking the dome off. Maybe not all at once if you feel like that might be, detrimental to the seeds and the environment that they're in. But give them a day or so to acclimate to the new space, and remove the humidity dome. High humidity contribute to wetter soil and invite pests like mealybugs and fungus gnats. And then the opposite case, where it's low humidity, you will have spider mites and white flies, which is what I'm dealing with at the moment. Now, these sap suckers multiply very quickly by the thousands, and they will turn your leaves. Your visual cue is your leaves yellowing, brown spots, falling off leaves, and then could be death if you don't get to it in time. Now, another way to mitigate this excess moisture is wind. Let me pull up my silly little wind illustration. These little oscillating fans is all you really need. You don't want this directly on any specific plant, particularly if it's just a seedling, because they're too tiny to handle, direct wind. You want this to be moving. You want it to maybe hit a wall, and then the air bounces back into the plants, and not directly on the plants. So this will help to dry, I don't want it to dry the soil too fast, but it will, help with that. And then it will also help with the strength of the seedling, because in nature, you have wind forcing the seedling to dance and strengthen the stem. But when it's inside and it's just always this way, the second a wind blows, it's just going to fall over. So that's why you want some wind situation in your space. All right, next is fertilizer. Your seedlings do not need fertilizer. Well, I guess it depends who you ask. But the seed has enough in it. And there's a term for this that I forgot to look up, but there's enough there for your seed to get past a certain point. I'd say 2 true leaves, your seedling will be fine and survive on its own. And then after that, if you're prolonging it indoors, then you will start to feed it a dilute form of fertilizing. If it's going straight outside, then I am assuming you have prepared your soil and that it will have everything it needs once it's out there. As far as, make sure you check the soil mix if you don't make your own, that it doesn't already have fertilizer in it, because then you could be over fertilizing, and then you would be burning your roots if you do over fertilize. So, and follow the container directions. If you're still scared, break it down even more, dilute it even further, and see how the plant reacts to it. I had a little picture. This is organic fertility. This is synthetic fertility. It should be blue. I don't know why it's white. All right. I know you were talking about, that's one of the projects you were getting to this week, is fertilizing some of your plants. All right. Next is the idea of succession sowing. I have a nice little chart there. So this is one of many, charts you could find, but I really like this one because it gives you days to maturity and then succession intervals. So every 3 weeks for carrots, starting in April all the way to August. And then the last possible way sowing is August, and then you'll get your harvest October, November, December if you don't freeze, which is really cool. So succession sowing, this could be overwhelming for a lot of us because we've already got our racks full of seeds, and then it's like, where am I going to put the next sowing? But this is why you need to start less at first. Don't fill up your racks all at once. Go slow. Particularly for people with the long growing seasons like Healy, they have, and I think you did this too. You tried to do succession sowing last year.
I did, and it still ended up being sowing like a zillion trays at one time because I get so excited, y'all. I get
Yeah.
excited in the beginning of the season. I have all of my seeds. I've planned everything out. I got my chart, I got my layout, I got my map, and I have all of these seeds. Of course, I'm going to plant them all at the same time. And then I end up with 15,000 tomato seedlings that all survive. And then what do I do? Well, what I do is donate to community gardens, and we have some food program and organization. So I end up doing that. But succession sowing is so important to me. Um, it helps you. So if something goes wrong, let's just say you have a unexpected weather condition. Maybe you got like that extra cold snap after it was supposed to be, your last frost date. You sowed your seeds, and then 2 weeks later, or even 3 weeks later, you get a cold snap. If you sown all of your seeds at the one time, now you have to start all over. Whereas if you succession seeded, maybe you, even if you did it, sowed seeds like once a week in the beginning or once every 2 weeks, it's possible through the succession sowing that some of those seedlings will survive and you don't have to start all the way over. Also, I think Joy was mentioning this, like depending on how much space you have, you do all of these, sow all of these seeds at one time. And of course, you have, 72 cells in your seed tray, 144 cells, 20, 30, whatever in those seed cell trays. But then when you look out into your garden, you're like, okay, I have 72 tomato seedlings and I only have 4 spots. Now what? So that is my goal for this year. And I specifically made a note of that to purposely, deliberately succession sow. But for me, I'm going to have to separate it like 2 or 3 weeks, because even if I do every 1 week, I'll still end up with too many. So yeah.
Another way to space things out, particularly tomatoes, cuttings. That's where, like you said, with the scions, it's the same idea. You take a piece of the branch off of a tomato, mostly the suckers in this case, and you root that sucker. And if you have a long enough period, even I have a long enough here in zone 6 that I can take a sucker of my tomato once. Let's say if I started it in March, I put it out in June. There's suckers on that I can take either in water, let it root out, or I directly put it in soil and keep it moist for a while. And that will fruit and flower and everything by the end of September, maybe even until October, depending on our winter. So that's another way of prolonging your harvest without the initial overwhelm of planting so many, particularly if you like the flavor of a particular, tomato. Basil is another easy one to propagate. Take a little piece of that stem, root it, and then plant it out, and you will get, because like in the heat of the summer, basil might start to fizzle out. But if you have another plant all ready to go that's a little bit younger, that will get you through that summer pressure and then keep going into the fall. All right. And what Healy touched on.
Sorry.
What Healy touched on just then is you have the tray that's got 72 seedlings in it, and then you look out the window and you've got space for 4. Control yourself.
Mhm.
Do not stop buying seeds. You have the seeds already. Look at you.
Stop calling me out. Stop calling me out.
There's a few of you in this list, in this chat here, that needs to be called out.
But the sales, though, they do it on purpose. It's the sales. They get me every time. I don't know if I uploaded this video. I think I did already. January 31st, my local garden center, they had 2025 seeds from Botanical Interest, 50% off.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I had to. My purse, it opened and the card came out, and before I knew it, like I was,
Well, in your
y'all in the
case,
chat, help me out. Am I by myself? Is it just me? Am I the only person like still buying seeds? My cutoff date is January 31st.
oh,
Like normal.
okay.
Like, and I just barely I made it. It was January 31st. I went back and I checked the receipt. But y'all, come on. I know I'm not the only one. Come on, chat. Y'all, look, don't leave me somebody back me up. Don't y'all
You mean
don't
your
let Joy
cutoff
call me
date
out like this.
for
Come on.
2025, but 2026 is here. So now
I have 2026 seeds too.
and then I was looking through like Seedaholic. I put that term in and I searched it. And you know where it goes? To a seed seller.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say my picture showed up. Oh,
It's just an enabler. Don't go to that site. All right. Last but not least, germination time could vary. Don't give up. So grow guides will, give you an idea of how long it takes for seeds to germinate. But those guides, plants don't care about those guides. There's plenty of times where I've, put the seeds in and then I plucked out the ones that came up and then I left the rest of the tray there, just let it sit out in the elements. And then like weeks later, boop, hello, here I am. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to find a place for you. But for the most part, it's a happy thing that these seeds germinate. But they do it in their own time. There's really, nothing you can do about it. Let's see. So I've learned this through sheer laziness, basically. And I hope you do too. Leave those seeds alone. They may reward you. So that is that. I think I got through all my shots. You had some extra ones you want to share. Let me know. Did you want me to pull up these seeds?
Oh yeah, so this was you were talking earlier about reading the seed packets, getting familiar with the plant, especially if it's your first time growing it or if you grew it before but you didn't have the success that you wanted. Sometimes it does pay to read the seed packet because you know how it is. We see, oh, I've been gardening for umpteenth time period. I know what I'm doing. And you just, follow your regular like plan or routine for sowing seeds. And, you wonder why you're not, getting the success. Go ahead and take the time to read those seed packets. These are pictures from Botanical Interest. And the front, the back, all panels and flaps of the inside, outside, the top, the bottom is covered with information about each particular seed. I have never seen a seed packet that has had as much information about the seed plus pictures as Botanical Interest. I have never had like a germination issue with Botanical Interest. I never got like a different seed. Y'all remember back, this was like a 2 or 3 years ago with the whole white pepper gate where people ordered, like, I don't know, bell peppers and they got hot peppers or they ordered, whatever and got something totally different. And it was like a big deal. It was like a big deal. I never had that problem with Botanical Interest. That's just one company, hashtag not sponsored, but hey. But read the packet, read the packet. You never know what new information or tips or tricks you might find. And for botanical interest, I mean, they give you recipes, and I'm just all kind of everything. Now, what I want to try to do once I open that packet, and use all of the seeds, is to save the packet just for the information. They're not the only one. I know, like Johnny's, they have a lot of information. They don't have pictures, but they have a lot of information. And it's several, seed companies where they have, a good amount of information, on the packet. So just take the time to read it. It might save you some time, it might save you some money, save you some resources, so. And I'm the worst at reading seeds, so I'm really talking to myself. And if anybody else, if it lands on your ears, but really I'm talking to myself.
But yeah, those seed packets are small and the writing are even smaller. So you might need to get your magnifying
That's
glass.
true, magnifying glass. And see, G Mama, she said, yep, I still have mystery peppers from mislabeled seed packets. So see, yep. And I mean, that was a big deal. It was all throughout the gardening community. Everybody was talking about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see. I want to do what seeds I'm going to be starting, or I should be starting anyway, for my zone 6, and this applies to like 5, 6, and 7, I would think. Now, I sometimes use, which one's this one? Is it this one? Yeah. Let's see if we can see this one. So this is territorial seeds again, but see, for February they have artichoke, asparagus, leeks, onions, shallots. All right, that's that. Nope. So for me, I would be saying, let me remove this. Where is it? So I'm saying it's getting close to the last call for bulbing onions, because they do need a lot of time, particularly starting off. Because when you buy them from that very Dixondale, very popular purveyor of onions, they sell you sets and starts, and they already have a little bulb on them. When I plant mine, they're just little sticks. So I'm trying to really get to that bulb stage before I plant them out. So I'm starting them earlier and earlier and earlier, and eventually I'll get there. So onions and leeks. I think what's it called? Short day. Is that onions or garlic? No, sorry.
So yeah. So for my area is short day. I think you have long day, right?
Yeah.
Like what's recommended for your area?
Right. So you guys just do short day. I do just long day. I guess I could do short day, but it would just be like, they wouldn't bulb up the right way.
Yeah.
And then I still have some garlic left over from the fall. I'm going to experiment to see if soft neck garlic, which doesn't need as much cold time as the hard neck. So I'm going to put them in pots, I guess outside, just in pots, and then I'll transplant them once.
Because that's what I have. I have soft neck, and it's in my green stalk. You know what? I think I need to check on the garlic. Thanks for reminding me, Joy.
Yes. Celery, now is a time to get your celery started, which I already did mine. Also, I've done artichokes. I think I need to resow because I feel like it's suffering from whatever infestation I'm getting, in my grow room there. And the cardoon seeds that I sowed never came up, and it's similar to artichoke. So I'm going to give it another go to see if, I think it's the seeds. I think the seeds are old. So I'm going to give it another go and see if any of them germinate. And I've been trying to pre-sprout them in like the baggie, and that's not even working either. It's a little early to be starting brassicas because they're going to get pretty big before you get them out into the soil. So I'm holding off on the brassicas. Lettuce, you can always start and finish inside. So lettuce is, woody herbs. Do your woody herbs because those also take a long time. Thyme, oregano, sage are the main woody herbs that I've gotten started. And then,
do you have rosemary?
Yes. I already have rosemary, but I should start rosemary if I didn't already have it. And then I'm gambling. No, I'm not really. I've been hearing quite a bit of it. So eggplants and peppers you can start now because typically they're perennials in other parts of the world, most parts of the world. So you can start them now and they won't suffer that transplant shock as much as certain other I don't know, maybe tomatoes. Tomatoes depends really, but eggplants and peppers are a little bit more forgiving with transplant even once they're big already. Because I've managed to overwinter a pepper indoors and then put it outside last year, and that did fine. It was prolific the rest of the year, so I feel like, yeah, starting peppers, particularly the hot peppers, you can hold off on the sweet peppers, hot peppers, and then eggplant. This is the first time I'm doing it, so we'll see how that goes. But I think it'll be okay. So that's my list of what I'm sowing. I am not, and these I will be starting indoors in all the cups and all the containers that I have. But there's no direct sowing for me. There is no transplanting at this time, and there is definitely no harvesting. Well, I could harvest the lettuce that I've started in December. They've had, by this point, 9 weeks already of growth, so they're ready. All right, we are getting to the tail end of our show. Oh, hope you didn't have anywhere to go, Healy. Oh, you're muted. Did you mute yourself?
Oh yeah, I
There
did.
you
I
go.
did. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So the next thing I just wanted to put out, if you have questions for us or suggestions or recommendations for topics that you would like us to discuss, please go ahead and put them in the comment section for the live, or put them in the comments, if you're watching the replay, let us know. We have a topic for next week. We're going to be talking about the perfect soil. Perfect soil. So, make sure you join us next week for that. And like Joy mentioned in the beginning of the show, we normally do every 2 weeks, but just the way that this month sets up, we're trying to do every first and third week of the month. So it just happens that we're going to be doing it next week. So it'll be back to back for the month of February. But then after that, it should be every other week. But next week we're going to be talking all things soil. Well, not all, y'all know not all, but we're going to be talking about soil.
All right. When with that, we thank you for showing up and joining us in the chat. Replay people, thank you. We appreciate you. Hopefully you can join us again next time. I will talk to you all again real soon. Catch my live seed sowing, so I'll harvest more. Bye.
And until next time, be safe, be well, and be blessed.